Okay.
Perfect, I can see that now.
Okay, thank you, Julia. So Kaligo is the application that you'll be using over this coming year in your classes with your pupils to help them learn and improve their handwriting. So Kaligo is an application that allows children to handwrite on a tablet and with a stylus. And what's the most innovative part of this application is the fact that there is AI feedback on every single trace, on every letter, on every exercise that is in the application. And there are 14 different types of exercises that will take the children from tracing through to their capital letters, their lowercase, cursive, and then on to more sophisticated exercises that involve spelling or identifying parts of a sentence from a grammar point of view. So that could be identifying a noun or a verb in a sentence. Okay, Kaligo has been on the market only for a few years. We're a young French company, but we have been validated by the Department for Education in the UK and recently won the BET Literacy Award in 2022. These are the different exercises that can be done on the application that I just mentioned earlier, going from graphic, writing, spelling exercises. There are visual exercises and pencil pressure exercises, only if you have a pen that can pick up on the pencil pressure, and not all of them do. The Apple Pen does, but it's £100 a pen, so it's not necessarily the first choice of all schools, or of many schools at all. So these are the exercises. I'm going to show you from a student point of view. This is the kind of remediation that they can get. So Kaligo will measure the shape, the direction, the order of the strokes and the line spacing. They get to write a word if they're on a full word. It could be just letters, but in any case, when there is, whether it's a letter or a word, the feedback is immediate, meaning as soon as the child has drawn, let's say their letter M, and they indicate if they tick it, if they're happy with it, or if they want to rub it out and do it again, they will immediately get a little horseshoe underneath. And I know this is tiny, but I'm going to show you better in a minute. That will show, that will give them feedback that will be green or orange, or maybe with red in the middle if we're not being lenient with the child, and if we want to really pay attention to, in this case, the M has gone under the line. I know it's tiny, so I'll be coming back to it later. And there are all kinds of exercises. This is a tracing exercise. And what we're showing here is the fact that, so you have the watermark initially, and the child can follow the watermark with their pen. And if they manage it quite well, then the next stage will automatically adapt to the fact that they have done well and will propose the same exercise but without the watermark, and then here with nothing at all, to see if they're able to repeat the exercise and the tracing model that we have given. And if they do have difficulty, then it'll go back and give them that extra guidance that they need. So in case I forget, because sometimes I do forget, the application can be used with a finger. So if you were stuck and had to make do without a stylus, but I'm pretty sure that Julia and Jim have ordered styluses, and within your schools, hopefully you'll be able to organise yourselves so that you have a full set of styluses for your class when you're on your Kaligo. And then, so the student, the pupils will be using that on their tablet, and then the teacher will be managing everything from their laptop, and that's where you have the dashboard, and you can see exactly your students with their profiles. You will be able to see the lessons that are available to you that already exist in Kaligo. You'll be able to create your own lessons, and you will also be able to see the dashboard showing progress at a class level. So that's really handy to be able to hone in very quickly and see if one child is doing maybe less well than you might expect. And all of that is done on a dashboard where there are colour indicators. If I just go forward here, yes, so this is the monitoring part that is visible to teachers so that they can see for one particular lesson, like here, for example. You can see the list of pupils in your class, the exercises that you have set at the top, and then you can look at this first exercise and you can see so many children have gotten green. This child here has an orange, and if you literally just click on that orange, you will see the first attempt at the exercise and the most recent attempt of the exercise. And in fact, if they've done it 2 or 3 times, we actually have the capacity to let you visualize the work that was done. It just pops up there on the right side of the screen. And again, somebody here hasn't finished their exercise. It's just a little exclamation mark. And here there's a red mark. Somebody is in well, this child is actually having quite a bit of difficulty. And there's one area, and let's imagine that this was, you were working on the exercise, or whatever exercise, they're clearly, they need support here. And you also get an overall view, but I will explain that at the end for the class. From the alphabet, as they work through it on all the exercises, the cumulative information goes in so that for the alphabet, from A to Z, you can see exactly how well they're writing their capitals, their lowercase, and their cursive writing. So that's the monitoring part. And if I go back, because I did skip forward, customization of Kaligo. So without going into the detail here at all, it's one of the things that we are, I know this is going to sound corny, but we are passionate about. It is the fact that Kaligo can be differentiated and customized for children with special needs. And we're going to be seeing that when I show you, I'll be sharing my screen specifically directly on the application in a few minutes. Okay, so that is that. I don't want to go into much more detail there. Perhaps just to mention that the access is done via a QR code that we set up at the beginning of the year. So when you have your class set up, you will see that you will be able to print out your class QR codes. So that will look a little bit like this. And you have an avatar. You could have the child's first name, but in Aberdeenshire, I know that for GDPR reasons, you will have just the first letter of the child's name, and that's it. You'll be able to identify them like that. So when you print out the page, each child will have their QR code that you put in a safe place where they'll be able to use it throughout the year. Maybe, what's the word? When you plaster it, you don't plaster it, you plastify it.
Laminate it. Laminate.
Laminate, that's the word. Yeah, so you could be an idea to laminate it, but in any case, stick it somewhere where they'll be able to use it hopefully every day. The idea is that the children do not need to use Kaligo for a very, very long time, but we would ask you, particularly as you're lucky enough to be able to participate in this trial year for Aberdeenshire. Not everybody has access to Kaligo. Is that we would really be able to identify and qualify the progress that was made from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So I will explain how we're going to do that. How have I come? I've kind of lost my train of thought because I was telling you about the QR codes. So I actually have completely lost my train of thought. But anyway, you've understood that the QR codes are to be printed out and kept safely. Fine for the children, that they can use them for the whole year. That was it. That was the link. And yes, I'm catching up on myself. Don't worry. And so what we will ask teachers to do for their class is that at the beginning of the year, before you start using Kaligo, could you please take a photograph of the children's work, so a simple writing exercise or an appropriate writing exercise depending on your age group. the children that are with you. So it could be an example of preparation for writing the letter A and then the letter A, for example, or it could be a full sentence. But in any case, the example that you use in September, we will get you to upload that onto the team space that we have available for the group and for everybody who's using Kaligo. And just to reassure you, I don't need a sample from the full class. If you have 20 or 30 children, I don't need all of that volume of feedback, but it would be good to take samples from children with maybe different, at different levels within your class or different capabilities. So maybe a stronger student and weaker students, or maybe student with a specific profile, but that we would have an example of maybe 5 students from your class, a sample of their work in September, and then another one, so the same words, but that you would ask them to do the same exercise in December, for example, and we will maybe get you to do it again during the year. We'll come back to that at the end, and I will talk to Julia and just maybe I'll put that in writing so that it's really, really clear for everybody. I don't want to confuse you with too much information today. But what we do want is to be able to see the impact of Kaligo and its use. So over a year, which is great because you're going to have it for the full year, and we'll maybe check in every 3 months and see, just take stock of what's there, the information that is there. So that comes back to being able to use Kaligo ideally every day. And if that is complicated from a device point of view, that you would at least be able to use it 3 times a week, and that the children have access to it sufficiently so that we're getting access to that help. Okay. So I just want to move this out of the way. Oh, I can't. Okay. So that is an example of the QR codes, and that's how we set up. And what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to be very, very brave, and I'm going to do this live. So imagine that I have just scanned my QR code. And so I am a student. My name is Connor. And Connor, when he opens up his tablet, this is what he sees. So it's just for you to have a view of what the pupils see before we go on to actually showing you how you're going to create it. This is, let's say, the end result, or at least some examples of the end results. So when the child comes online, as I said, they see this screen where the exercises that the teacher has assigned to them are listed here on the left. So high frequency list 2, high frequency list 13. This is probably not maybe the most, you might have nicer names for your lessons, but whatever you decide to put in there for them will be available to your pupils in the class, which should normally be, well, normally, when I say normally, probably be the same for most children. And then you might have 1 or 2 children who could be working on different exercises that will be assigned specifically to them, but they will know because it will be there available on the left side. So that also is something that you have total control over what lessons are assigned, if they're for the full class, or if you have a dual level, if you have P1 and P2 in your class, you will have some exercises set for your P1 and others for your P2. And when they open up, it's all sorted. So let me see. This is an example of an exercise. Oh no, I'm on the wrong place. I have to go into my tablet. Oh, it's actually, okay. Here we go. So I was going to look at the quick brown fox on my pen. Just turn that on. Quick brown fox. And here we're working on capital letters. This is an example of what could be an exercise that you could get your class to do in September for the ones who are at this stage, because there are so many letters and it gives them, well, plenty. It gives us plenty of examples. As you see, so I've chosen the first word here, and it has shown me, the dynamic model has shown me how to write the first letter. And I don't know if you will hear it, but I'm going to just put up my sound here on my tablet, and hopefully you will. Oh, shucks. Okay, so because I'm sharing my tablet with you, we're not hearing. Normally, what you hear is write the word the. You hear the full instruction here. And when I touch on this little symbol here, the icon, you would just hear the. So I'm going to write the letter, the first letter T, like that. And I think that's great. And so you can see the horseshoe has given me my immediate feedback and is also showing me with the orange indicator, there's something up there. And that means that I've just written below the line when I wasn't supposed to. We then had the letter H, and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. I don't know if it's tolerated or not. Let's see. Oh, it didn't like that at all. Okay, so at this point, we have a red mark. It's going ahead, though, with the E. So I'm going to do the E. And I'm going to do something strange as well here. And I say, oh, no, don't like that. I'll go back. I'll do it again. I'm going to do this. Oh, that's really bad. Okay, so what happens is that I'm wondering what the heck is going on. And so you can't hear it, but the child will hear, look at the correct method again, and now look at your attempt. And when I touch the screen, I can see, I said, oh, sugar, I didn't start in the right place at all. Okay, I got it. But what did I do wrong here? And if I just click on it, it says to me, look at the correct method, or look at the model. I think it says, look at the model. And now look at your attempt, and it shows me, and I can see, oh yes, there's something wrong there. Okie dokie. So I go on to the next page, and it's going to ask me to do the H. Oh, and I even get a star. Good stuff. You're not getting the benefit of the sound, but it goes, it's really nice. There's another H. Oh, and I even got a star, even though it's not very clean. Up. Okay, I didn't like that wriggle as much. Let me see. So this is actually, when you look at the satchel here, this allows you to see the first attempt and how I went wrong. But the exercise isn't finished. I'm going to continue, because now it's going to get me to do the E. So I'll just do this really, really quickly. Okay, I think, oh, I need to do the top one first. Okay, so check. I don't do it like this normally, but now I have paid attention and I can see this is the correct order. Okay, it's a little bit better. Not much better, but it's a little bit better. I'm obviously doing this very quickly in front of you, but it's just to let you see the feedback that you can have. And as I said earlier, okay, the child can click on it and see where they went wrong. And at the end, when the letters have been proposed and worked on, I should have, normally I should have done an example where some of the letters were really good, and it would have been just one bad letter. And you would see that the AI, because it is intelligent, will identify obviously only the letter that needs to be repeated. So one child might be working on the letter T, and the child beside them might be doing the letter E. So this is where it's unbeatable, really, because they're only repeating the letters that they're not getting right, at an individual basis. So, oops.
Nessa, while you're doing that, can I ask you a question that's popped up in the chat, please?
Sure.
So someone's asked, is there a way to try the exercises and demonstrate to the class without logging in as one of the pupils?
Yep, that's the great news. So where I was showing you here on the left, this is where the teacher has already assigned the work, and then here at the moment it's called modules. We're going to be calling it practice. The name is going to change I think next week, so I'm just going to click on practice, and here you can see all of our modules. Or practice exercises. So going from pencil pressure, which you won't be using because your pen, I think, won't be adapted. Practice your tracing patterns. So if I click on that, I can say, oh yes, I'd like them to do this symbol. And I'm doing this with my finger now, just by the way. And it's there. It doesn't need to be assigned. But the children will still get feedback. They will be able to see, they'll be able to do it again. And then they'll be able to do a drag and drop exercise and say, oh, okay, that's it. Oops, not that. Oops, not that. Look very carefully now. I'm going to go, oh, did you see down here on the bottom right side? I'm going to pick the wrong one again. I'm going to do this. Up. And what it does, normally it's giving up on me completely, is that it will wriggle, I don't know if you saw it earlier on, to indicate, oh, this could be a good one, to attract the child's attention to the shape that we're looking for. So that's just an example of so exercise completed. I'll go back here. For every single mode, you can practice your tracing lines. They can write their numbers. So you can put in the digits and they get the feedback on that. I'm going to go back. You can choose, you say, okay, what year is it? It is today's the 30th of August 2023. And if you want them to work on that, okay, they'll work on that. Oh gosh, my writing is clearly not the same as the Scottish writing. This way. Oop. Ah, that's better. And the 3. Ideally, the children should watch the model completely. I'm going to do this a bit too much. You're going to see the feedback is there as well. And so the 3, oh, I actually even have the watermark. That's nice. Oh, I should use my pen. I was using my finger. Okay. What's interesting to see here, this little red dot means that I had a pen lift. So basically I put my pen in contact with the tablet, then I lifted it to start again. I was kind of hesitating. And this is to encourage the child to keep the pen on so I was going to say on paper, but in contact with the tablet as they would do on paper. And you're building up quality writing and speed as they learn to perfect their writing skills. When you are bringing them towards cursive, you want them to be able to not be lifting the pen where it's not useful. No, I have to do it here. Okay, so it's very tempting to go back into all of those, but as the teachers who are there, once you have a QR code, you will be able to play around and discover everything that is in all of the modules without actually having to set them up. And the good news is that if you decide to use it like, what is today? Today is Tuesday. Everybody will have seen, today is Wednesday. So if you want to go into school tomorrow and get the children to work on their shapes, tracing and drawing, I'm not sure if this is, yeah. So here, for example, they will hear the instruction that unfortunately you can't hear because I have my tablet plugged into my computer and I'm asking too much of it at the same time. But you can see the square shape being traced. And so I have to look for a square shape in, I don't know if this will work for me. Is that okay? It's clearly not a good example of, I just flatten. Okay. try and make a better one. Just choose another square up here. Maybe I'm not drawing it the right way. Oh no, that one was good. So happy, it gets popped over, and next it will pose a circle. So these are things that children can be working on from a tracing point of view, but it's really nice because then you're also looking at the vocabulary of geometry and they're identifying shapes. So you're looking at, several skills at the same time. And you can see there are just so many things to discover, so many pictures that they can enjoy working on. So they're available in the practice mode, freely available for the children without the teacher having to actually create those exercises. So coming back here, as I said, the exercises on the left are the ones who were assigned to the teachers and, by the teachers, and when I log out, I'll just turn this off. That is the opening page, and in this case the closing page that the children see when they log on to or when they leave Kaligo. So I'm just going to plug that out. I wanted just to let you see live what it looks like, even though you didn't have the sound, which is a pity. So you have to imagine that it's even better with the sound. So, okay, 5+5. I'm going to go to, actually no, I'll pause for a second and see, hold on, let me just open up my proper screen. That's my Teams, okay. I'm just going to take a breather for a second, and if anybody has a question on, or any comments even on what I showed you from the student interface on the tablet, from what I just showed you.
There's just been one more comment, but it's to do with the Kaligo license, so I'm going to go in and check in the portal just now, so it's something that I can have a look at, Nessa.
Okay. Right, so as teachers, when you log on to Kaligo for the first time, you are going to see, in the same way as the children, you're going to have your kind of control panel here on the left. And what's interesting is, well, you can divide it up into 3 parts. We're going to start at the bottom, at the admin section. The teachers normally have already been set up. So for a school, you might have lots of teachers, and so you, as an individual teacher, you won't have the administrative view of everybody who's in there. You will just have your own classroom set up. So for me, Miss McDermott, and my colleague is Mrs. Tazine, and she comes in and works with the class on a Friday when I'm not there, for example. So you're the 2 teachers for the class, and this is your class. But in the administration section also, on the bottom left here, we have our letter choices, and this is really, really important, so that as a school, you have defined at the beginning of the year the letters that are aligned to your school policy. And so this is the first step that you do at the beginning of the year, and then that's it sorted. But it does mean sitting down for maybe 20 minutes or up to a half an hour, depending on how quick you are to decide or to recognize the letter formations that suit your school policy. And you just validate from A to Z. So what we have here in the drop-down menu is we have our capital letter choices, the lowercase, cursive, and numbers. And we need to go through them one by one and say, okay, for capital A, 3 strokes, 3 strokes. So we have a color code. Stroke 1 is pink, stroke 2 is yellow, blue, etc., etc. And if I have 2 here, it's because there are 2 possible ways that have been identified in the UK that were required that teachers use. So you might accept both or perhaps only one. I'm going to show you the example here. We go down, down, and across. So you have the dynamic model. And here you have up, down, and across. Okay, so you can decide which letter will be your main template. And if this one here, you can say, okay, we can tolerate this, we'll accept it. You can actually click on here. And that way it's considered you have two templates that are okay, and that the feedback will be given accordingly to the children when they're writing. And so that's it. We're not going to save yet. We're going to save when we get all the way to the end. Okay. So for the letter B, we can look again, down, around, no pen lift. So we only have two strokes. Whereas here, down, around, pen lift, here we go again, and these two are supported. You might say, no, we want them all just doing two strokes and not three. Okay, so you do C, there's nothing to choose there. D, okay. E, oh, holy Moses. Oh, this is where I had my difficulty because my second stroke, oh, actually this one is tolerated. You can even do it, oh, that third way. Is that the way I do it? Let me just see. Oh no, I don't do it that way either. So obviously we're not going to go through every single letter of the alphabet, but you can see that you're going to have to make those choices, and you can validate or say, oh, no, we don't want those, or we do, we're very tolerant, we accept them all. Once the overall result is any of these, we're happy. That's up to you to decide. And I'll just show you an example of the cursive choices up. So what's great is that we have pop-ups to remind us. Make sure you save your letter choices. Yes, save. Okay. And you have the green markup here, always in this, on this side of the screen. Any change that you might make, it's always confirmed like that. So my cursive choices for A, we don't have any other option, only this one here, but I'm going to show you F, because there are lots of options and you might want to look at it, see how it's drawn, and decide which ones, if this is your main template, and then if you want to let the other ones be supported or not. At the moment they're not supported, but you can say, actually we would accept this one and not the other two. Okay, and in fact, so excuse me, you can record your steps as you go along, which probably is a safer bet. So if you get into a good habit and save for each one, that'd be great. So cursive, numbers, etc. When you have finished, you've got to Z and you've done all of your checking for each category. So number, cursive, lowercase, uppercase. So for each category, you just click on the PDF. That will create your PDF file that you will have for yourself. And then if you want, you can print it out, put it up on the wall, and you'll have it for the children. So those are the letter choices. And that might take, as I said, maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get through that. I hope that's clear. I think that one is quite simple. So Julia can interrupt and tell me if there are any questions about that. And okay, good. So I'm going to go on to the lessons section. Actually, no, sorry. Oof, nearly forgot. So here I am, and here you are with your class. So the administrator for your school will already have set you up. No, Julia and Jim did the setting up, and they could do with a round of applause because really, I'm not saying it's a big job, but it's nice to be able to just log in and see everything put in there for you. It's a nice way to be able to start and not have to worry about the mechanics of logging on. So this is what all of the teachers will see. And so what have we got? You can see my class and you can see your settings. So when I go into the settings at this level up here, I'm actually going to look at the class settings as a whole. All right. And so by default, you probably will not change anything here, or maybe just one thing. Okay. which I'm going to show you. But these are the settings that are available to you. There are 3 tabs. The first one is the visual guidance that's there for the children. You have the feedback that they get from the app on the work that they have done, and you have the access to the practice modules that are freely available that I showed you, the 14 different exercise models that are in there. You may or may not want to have that open all the time. The visual guidance here is the most important part, and I'm just going to go through and show you what's there by default, and then I will go into an individual student where you might decide that 1 or 2 students could do with a customized format that will help them because they might have visual impairment or they might have difficulty focusing, and hopefully some of these features will help. So by default, the writing color is black. The background color is white. If you want to change and make it blue, well, you just tick on blue or purple, okay? If you want to change and put the writing background on the app as yellow, you just choose yellow. I'm going to leave everything by default the standard way, okay? Because we're looking at the class here as a whole. So black on white. The writing borders are standard. So when you're writing in a box, it's just a grey box. A child who might have difficulty seeing that grey box, you can choose to make it much stronger with those colours. And but again, it's probably for an individual child, enough for the whole class. The thickness of the writing lines can be moved up to medium or thick. The spacing can be changed. The colour of the lines can be changed to stand out more. The dynamic model speed by default is standard. You can slow it down or you can speed it up. All of these are, by default, these are your regular settings. And the one thing that you might want to change for the whole class at the beginning, by default it is disabled. It is what we call the focus mode, and sometimes you have a little explanation here. You have a question mark. The focus mode, when it's enabled, the input area will be grayed out and not accessible while the dynamic model is playing. So the child, it obliges the pupil to watch the dynamic model until the end, and only when the little drawing has been done, they can take their pen and draw it themselves. So it just means that they slow down. They have to slow down, observe, and then they write, because the temptation is to go straight in there. They can be quite excited about it. So maybe at the beginning of the year, you might want to apply for the whole class. You might want to enable the focus mode. Okay. And then to validate that, and this is the only choice or the only feature that I'm changing here, I'm just going to click on apply for the whole class. And you can see top right corner, it's been done. Settings have been saved. Super. I'm going to disable it now because that's the way. So we're in My Class and Settings, and we have seen the visual guidance options that are there. Next, we have the feedback options and we have the access options. There are very few things in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to explain it here for our class as a whole. I'm going to go back and show you these options for one child. So in my class, I have Amber, Connor, Courtney, Daniel, Ezzy, Hannah, James. Oh, I put myself in there. Okay, and Siobhan. Right. So I'm going to choose Connor. This is Connor's profile. We don't need the surname. We don't care about the birth dates. Connor happens to be left-handed, so I'm going to mark him as being left-handed. By default, it actually is unknown. Okay, this is just a profile that I've worked on already. By default, it's not indicated. So if you want to go in and make a note of the fact that one child is left-handed, can be interesting for you to remember as a teacher, although you see them writing, so it'll be obvious. It could have an impact maybe on their iPads and the palm recognition. it could be beneficial to indicate if they are left-handed. Okay. Just while I'm here with Connor, let's just click on his QR codes and imagine that Connor has difficulties writing. His parents have said, we have a tablet at home, we're going to buy a pen, a stylus. Could he have access to the exercises at home? Yes, he can. And so when you print off for Connor, you can, so you have the school QR code, but you have a specific code here for the parents, and this is for homework. And even if it's not for homework, it actually will just allow Connor access to the practice mode that is freely available for all the children without it being necessarily a designated exercise that you've had to assign for him. It can be, but you don't have to. And then you have this little message here for the parents that explains to them how to just start using it. So that's really nice to know. So that is Connor's student profile, but we're going to look at his settings because we've said that Connor has some difficulties. So we're going to keep the black writing, but you have learned, or you know perhaps, that the yellow background suits him better. He finds it easier to identify, to recognize the shapes with that background, so you're going to click on yellow. Maybe he doesn't need the color-coded box. He can manage with the standard, but it would be useful to have thicker lines to give him maybe more spacing between the lines. The standard model, let's just take a look. That's slow enough. You might decide, no, that's okay for him. I'm not going to slow it down more. And we already have the focus mode because we have enabled that for the whole class. And you think, yeah, he should be okay there. So I'm going to save that. So they are saved specifically for Connor. It's only for him. And now we're going to look at the feedback. And I wanted to show you the feedback at an individual level because there's an extra feature here that we don't have for the whole class, but you can be used at a student level individually. For the whole class, you have the difficulty level, which by default, you have a gauge here where the children are either working at expected, and this is where the gauge is situated for the whole class. But for the case of Connor, who has difficulties and needs more time, he's working towards expected. So the feedback, we're going to make it more lenient for him so that when he goes above or below the line, or if there's a pen lift, the feedback that the AI will give him won't be as red as the other. So he might get more oranges, or he might occasionally be more in the green zone. It'll just be more tolerant, okay? And so that is more encouraging for him. And imagine by Christmas, he's doing fantastically well. He's made great progress. And you say, gosh, he is just coming along in leaps and bounds. Connor, I'm going to bring him back to working at expected so that he really is paying attention and respecting the lines and what you want him to be doing. And if you have maybe another child who's doing really, really well, and you want them to, again, be very attentive and make as few mistakes as possible, well, then you can put the gauge at working at greater depth. So that can be done, as I said, by default for the whole class, it's at expected in the middle. And for Connor, I'm going to make it more lenient, put it down here on the left. Also, for somebody who has real difficulties, you might enable this feature here where we analyze only the shape of the paths. So let me see. Kaligo will not analyze direction, order, line spacing, and pen lift. The visual feedback will therefore be more encouraging. Currently, this setting is only available for the capital letter, number, and tracing pattern exercises. So just that you know that. But at least for a child who's at that first stage of tracing and drawing their capital letters, If the overall result is legible and they didn't maybe start and go in the right direction, it is encouraging for them to, for the fact that the letter is recognisable, so, and not to be too strict with the red marks. And this is the wonderful part that I really like here, is the teacher can record her own voice or his own voice for individual students. I'm going to answer the question that could be popping up. Unfortunately, no, this does not exist as a class feature, but I have passed the message on, and the developers are aware of the fact that the teachers would like this for a full class, and I think it will be done. But for the moment, you have to go in and maybe for a child who particularly needs that encouragement. Not to worry, Connor. Let's try again. Not to worry, Connor. Let's try again. And I validate that. I'm happy with it. And here, so I'll just go to the opposite end of the scale. Oh, sugar. I didn't record myself. Well done, Connor. That's fantastic. Well done, Connor. That's fantastic. Validate that. There we go. So that's something, obviously, it takes a little bit of time, but if there are a few children in your classroom who would benefit from that, or maybe I can't imagine a specific context. Maybe they're working with a SEND teacher and they're in another room, but it just means that they get that extra feedback, that audio feedback when they're working on their exercises, and it is encouraging. I might not be able to save. I can't save it now because I haven't done the other four, so we'll just, or the other two, so I'm going to ignore that. I'm not going to save. It needs to be green for me to be able to save it. Okay, don't worry about that. I'll just disable it. There we go. And so the third tab that we have in the settings is access, and this is a really simple one. Access to training models on the app, which is the practice mode. By default, the whole class has access to the practice mode, and maybe you might decide from the beginning, or depending on what your own idea is on how you're going to be using Kaligo with your class, you might like to let them discover everything over the first few days, or not, I don't know, but you can enable, or sorry, it is enabled, and if you want, you can disable that feature so that they're only working then on the assigned lessons. But I think it is nicer when they're discovering it to have, and even for you as teachers, to have plenty of resources there to let them start tracing or start doing capital letters. That's all in there. So I'm going to save for Connor. It's confirmed here as being saved. And we're all good for our student profile. Your class, all of this should be already done for you, because when Jim and Julia set up the classes, your name will be here. It corresponds to the class name. Everything, I think, should already be in there. But if you did need to modify something, you have the drop-down menu. Okay. Oops, it's mandatory. Oh, I didn't mean to get rid of that. I don't know if it was year one. We leave it year one. Okay. You can see where your schoolwork QR codes for your whole class are here. And it's probably, you could print 6 to 8 per page. Maybe, I think it comes out automatically like that. And then if you are doing homework codes, well, they're available in that section as well if you're assigning homework. So that is, so we've seen the letter choices, and you've seen how to personalize your class or student settings. the teachers we don't need to see. And so the next step is to go up to lessons. So we have Kaligo lessons, my lessons, archive lessons. Let's go into my lessons. And before I start that, I'm just going to have a little breather and check in with Julia. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've answered a question. Miss Ballantyne had asked, when selecting the letters, do we select for the whole class or can we select cursive for specific pupils?
Ooh.
So I thought that you could just choose specific lessons for your class, your groups and your individuals.
No.
It doesn't have to be set for the whole class.
No, this is really important. The letter choices, that is your policy for the school, probably, unless within the school you're very flexible and one teacher prefers one method and another teacher prefers another one. Well, then they will make their letter choices separately. But once the letter choices are made, it's for the class.
Oh, right. Okay, so I've got that wrong then. I thought that you could choose at the start. So you would choose all your capital letters, you would choose all your lowercase, you would choose all your cursive, and then you could select which lessons we'd go with.
Maybe we're not talking about the same thing. So the letter choices this is the base of any work that will be done on any exercise for the whole class and possibly the whole school. These are the models that you want the children to be learning and practicing, or maybe some models like this one you might say, oh, we don't want them writing like that, okay? But so that is something that we set up at the beginning of the year and then we don't touch it again, okay? And maybe you're thinking of when you actually create a lesson, make sure to leave your lesson choices.
Yeah, so I think, well, the teacher is saying that, down the school, they might just want to use the lowercase letters, but then further up the school, they might want to use the cursive letters.
Yes, but then...
And because you select those separately
No.
at the start...
No. In fact, what happens is then when you are creating your lessons, you choose the type of writing that you want the children to do. So I'm going to show... I think I'll be able to... I think I've understood the question. So when every teacher comes onto my lessons for the first time, you can see that these are the ways that you are going to be able to identify your lessons as you are going along. At the beginning, you might be looking for a lesson that you've already created, or you might have identified it, depending on the different levels. I'm sorry, this is the UK version that I'm using here. So it's Key Stage instead of P1, P2. I'm on a different support to yesterday. So it's just different ways of finding a lesson that you might have created, okay? So let's say we haven't created anything yet, but just so that you know, don't be surprised when you come onto the page, there are 6 or 8 lessons that have been put in there anyway, just for you to see what a lesson looks like, okay? That it's not just empty when you arrive on this landing page, okay? So we have here the lesson on the B sound, which I created earlier this afternoon, and it only takes 6 minutes. It's for Key Stage 1 or reception, and the description, I did not take the time to put in a description, and I can see that it's only for one student. This was a sample that I made earlier on, but here in this box area, it's just the summary of what's behind it, okay? So for the letter A, which was already constructed and available in the Kaligo library, you have the lesson takes 12 minutes to do. You have the level and the year stage, and the description, learning objectives to practice exercises to support writing the letter A. That's obvious enough. And then when you click on it, you can see, look what's in here. Fantastic. So what have we got? You have a pencil pressure exercise, which you may not be doing because pencil pressure doesn't work with all of the styluses. Don't worry about that. So you can say to yourself, okay, if I go in here I'm just going to remove it because there's no point giving it to the children if they're not going to get the right feedback. So I don't know if you can see what I just did there. So this is, I recognize this as being my pencil pressure exercise. I'm going a little bit quickly because this is the symbol on the 14 exercise models that we have for Kaligo. This is the very, very first one, and that is the little symbol that's there, okay? Here, this little yellowy symbol is for tracing lines or shapes. Here you can see that it is the capital letters. So this is the kind of exercise that lies behind this box. Here, they've put in a lowercase. So what I'm just identifying for you is the fact that you can already identify the type of lesson it is by the symbol and actually the color of the box as well. It can help. So on each exercise, I have a little cog, which is not very visible here. I'm going to click on it so you can view, you can disable, move it. So if I move it, it's just because, okay, you might decide I don't want them doing that first. I'm going to move it down, validate. Oh, and it's just moved here. Okay. And that was just to show you. In actual fact, I think it's not useful at all. I'm going to delete it. So if you delete that one, it's gone. Okay, I'm just telling you. I'm going to delete it because I don't want to use it. I know my pen is not going to pick up on it, and there's no point in the children seeing it and trying to do it if they're not going to get good feedback. So I've deleted it. And it's a nice exercise because you have tracing. You have the graphics here, and you can see this is what can be done within that. This is the type of exercise that it is, and this is what the children will be doing here. So I just come back. You can get that extra information, and that's it. And imagine, for example, that you're happy with those 5 exercises. But you actually think, oh, I could add another one in there. So you just click on create. And this is maybe what you were thinking of, Julia. So within this, the lesson on the letter A, I want us to add something else. So the type of exercise, we have 14 possible exercises. And I am going to try we already have capital letter. We already have a lowercase letter. I'm going to give them a cursive option. And I could record, but I'm not going to bother. But if you wanted to record the instruction, you could. Please write the letter E. Please write the letter E. That sounds like B. I think I said A. Anyway, validate. That has been done. That is the recorded instruction is there. You don't have to do that because the instructions are already on the application. I'm just showing you how to do it if you wanted to personalize, and that would take the place. And so we're in the context of free words, so you can add whatever you would like to add yourself. So we're going to stay with apple. You could put in a picture. I'm not going to waste time showing you, but you just look for a picture on your computer and add it to it, which obviously looks nice. I'm not going to do it now just from a time point of view. And yes, don't forget, so when I write the word apple, I need to press the space bar, and that's what validates it. Because if I forget, I just write apple again. If I do enter, it doesn't work. Oh, it actually disappeared. Okay, so I just want lowercase apple, but I have chosen, I can write in cursive. If you want, you can decide to put one line or several lines. Okay, we'll keep it easy. We'll keep it easy, but you have that option there, and you can decide if the entry point if there is a little entrance stroke here or not at all, I'm leaving it with the entrance stroke and save. You can see that it has been confirmed, and then I come down into my exercises, and where we already had all of the other words, now we have apple. You can see that it is in cursive writing, and you also can see that you have your personalized voice instruction here. Because this is a new exercise, we have to designate who is going to be using it. Only the students selected here will have access to this lesson. No class or students were found. That is why, because I haven't, where am I? I'm in my lessons. Okay, it's because I haven't quite simply added my lessons for, or sorry, my students for year one. This won't happen to you because your students are already in there. I'll come back. So that is showing you, in fact, so what I've shown you is samples of exercises that are already in my lessons. And if there's one in there, you can use it as it is, you can move it, and you can actually create and add an exercise to the lessons that are already there. Okay. I'm going to show you the B sound. Will I be able to, I wonder, I was on Connor earlier. Oh, I'm going to see if I can show you something. This is the exercise that I created earlier for Connor. Just connect my tablet. There we go. Oh, okay, I don't need that. I know what I need to do. Just more video. Okay, so we're going to come back into Connor. I need to flash his code. Okay, so I will do that. I need to hide the bottom one, that's the homework one. Up. There we go. So on Connor. And the B sound. Oh, here, the B sound. I have to use my tablet. And I created this just earlier today because we have a fantastic new feature that I wanted to share with you. So Connor is going to do the first exercise on the letter B. And you can see the letter B being drawn. And I'm not going to cry, but I'm just I'm just after remembering something. You cannot hear what I created for you, and I did it especially so that you would get the benefit of seeing and hearing the new feature. So never mind, you'll be able to discover this yourselves. If you are really, and probably with the younger children, you want to let them see if you want them to know that it is the letter B in the alphabet. So here, if I click on this here, we would have write the letter B. That's the instruction. And then when the child clicks here, B, they will just hear the phonetic sound B. And that's very helpful, I think, when they're learning to read at the beginning. Oh dear, but can you see as well? So I'm sorry about the sound. You're not getting the benefit of it, and I'm not either because I have too many things connected at the same time. I'm just going to draw my letter B, and you can see that the yellow background is there. It's coming up much better on my tablet than on the screen. It's just really nice. I got my feedback. Okay, right. Sorry about that, but that is just one of the newer features that literally has come out this week. So B for bed, bed, Ben was what I created there, and that was only for Connor. Okay, so I'm going to come back and show you Kaligo lessons. So this could be very much your go-to place to discover and see all of the lessons that are in there. And the good news is that there are 1,500 lessons that are, whether they're assessments, like where you are at the moment, impact trial assessments, capital to lowercase, lowercase to precursive, lowercase to cursive. You have lots of categories of assessments in there that might suit. You can see that some of these is like 16 or 20 minutes or 18 minutes. So these would be for older children, or they'd want to be, well, you would be the judge of what is suitable for your class, but they are all there in the impact trial area. Pencil control, couple of 4 seasons. Pencil control, this is where you will be looking and discovering for yourselves. I would say the area where we have the most exercises is in English. And you can look at letter family exercises, precursive letters. What have we got? These are long. So what you might find yourselves doing is taking a look at this exercise here and saying, okay, C, D, 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 okay, okay. Yep, that's great. I like the look of that. I'm going to add it to my lessons. Just before I add it, I want to show you that there's a quick way of seeing what's coming up next in this category. So there are 9 pages, and this is exercise 2, exercise 3, exercise 4. They're all in here. So I'm going to go back. Actually, no, I'm going to do this one here. I like the look of this one, F and S. I'm going to add it to my lessons. Do you want to assign these lessons? Well, no thanks, because I don't have any students. Oh, sugar. Okay. So normally, I'm sorry, I'm using this as a support because I created a few new things on it today, but I didn't create all of my students. And even if I select all, I can't validate because my students are not in there. So excuse me for that. Normally, you would actually be able to, you would see all of your class here, and you can say select all, and it just goes straight into your My Lessons, which is where it is, except that it hasn't been assigned to any children because my children aren't in there, okay? What you might want to do is when you look at it, okay, 22 minutes, you might say, okay, I'm going to make it shorter, so I'm going to maybe delete or disable this exercise, and it won't be visible. Maybe surf, that one's not necessary, so I'll disable it. So what have we got? We have lines, sus, oh, that one's in twice, we don't need that, so I will disable it. Sus, stuff, fuss, mess, perfect. That is all good. And so now I just want to see, I'm going to go back to my lessons. Okay, so we're still on 22 minutes in theory, and what I actually haven't, you can imagine now that the lesson is going to be shorter. I don't know if the application has the capacity to show the length of the exercise when you shorten it. I haven't tested that myself. Okay, but you know as a teacher that you can adapt that lesson if you think it's too long. So you can create and add a new one, or you can remove the ones that you think are not appropriate, but in any case, it is now in My Lessons. you can create a brand new lesson from scratch in the same way. And imagine you're doing a caterpillar story. So this is the caterpillar lesson. Okay. It's for your, whatever it is, stage. I'll just put in anything at all here. Description, keywords from the story, from the caterpillar story. And I'm going to add, and what am I going to add? I'm going to choose the category of exercise that we're going to be doing. So if it's a caterpillar story, okay, my children are doing their capital letters. So I choose capital letters. I leave it without any lines. It's easier for them. And I'm going to add my words. And so what have we got? Harry, my space bar, foot. And you can see that it's automatically putting it in capitals. What have we got? Curly, I don't know. So I've created my words, save, and there's my lesson. It's created. It's in my lessons. So I go back. Here's the caterpillar. It's a 6-minute lesson for Key Stage 1. Keywords from the story. And if I click on it, okay, what have I got? Hairy, foot, curly. And then tomorrow I'll realize, oh, I should have put in a picture, or I should have given the children another exercise to do at the end. I want them to do their tracing patterns, and I want them to be able to do something like this. So I'm going to save that. And then I said, okay, that's super. Oh, I must have clicked on 2, but I need this at the beginning. So I'm going to move it up. Move those blue ones up because they'll be doing those as warm-up exercises at the beginning. Up we go, up we go. I can practice my tracing patterns, vertical line, my O, and then, okay, it's not perhaps the most logical of lessons from a teaching point of view. Please excuse me. It's just to show you how you can create and pull things to build your own lesson. And these are the exercises within the lesson. Back to my lessons. So Caterpillar, we have the F and the S. We have the things that are in there from when you opened up. There's a few lessons in there already. And if you don't like them, you can just say the quick brown fox. You can say, oh, don't like that. I'll delete it. Or you can say, no, that is great, but I'll archive it and I'll use it for next year. I don't need it this year. I'm going to archive it. And then it goes into the archive lessons here on the left. And that means that if it's something that you do, so imagine you have prepared your classes, you have all the exercises that you want your students to be doing for the first month of September, or maybe for the first week of September. So you have 5 lessons in here, and maybe you assign the first 2. But at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you have a whole load of lessons in here, and you say to yourself, okay, they're all done. Let's get them out of the way, and you can just pop them all into your archive lessons, and they'll be there for next year. And imagine that the Egyptian gods, this is one that you have created for, so you're a teacher of older students, they're 8 or 9 or 10, and imagine that this is your own creation. You think, oh, this is a great lesson, and I know that Mrs. Murphy down the road, she would love to have that as well. When I say down the road, I mean down the corridor. And what am I going to do? I'm going to share it. Do you want to share this session in your school library? Yes, I do. And so I go into my school library, Kaligo lessons, school library, Egyptian gods. And this is something that you might have created, or maybe your caterpillar lesson you've created, and you know that 2 of the teachers in the school are doing the same story. They will be able to find it in there. So the only thing that I haven't precisely shown you is that when you create a lesson, or when you're assigning a lesson, you will be able to assign it to your students. And I actually just haven't, that's the only thing that I haven't shown you, but your students are already lined up for you, and by default you can enable so that all of the students in the class get to do the exercise or they have access to the exercise. And if it's a case where there is a particular exercise for a particular student, well, then you just click on their particular avatar and that's it. It will only go to their tablet. And yes, so that is the lesson section. I do need to show you something in the monitoring area, but I'm just going to again take a breather and ask Julia if there is anything coming up for...
No, we're all good. I'm just quite conscious of the time as well, though, Nessa, because it's 5 to 5
it's
here.
5 to 5, okay. But I will show, can I show you here? Yeah, I can, it's actually what I showed you earlier. If you remember in the, in here, Kaligo, here. Okay, so I apologize for this, but it's just the quickest view that we have. In the monitoring section, when your class has been set up, your students are set up, and you can see all of the exercises that they have done. So here they're on lesson 1, animals. You can see the percentage of success, the percentage of completion. So for your class, you have the code of green, orange or red, which will identify how well they have done. And if, for example, here it's Courtney, we're looking at where she got an average result. And when the teacher clicks here, she or he will be able to see the exercise result. So I said that to you earlier, but now it's just to put in the context of now that the fact that you've seen the teacher dashboard, you can see where that is available. It's on the left side of the column where all the teacher information is. So the class analytics shows you individually for the lessons, and it also shows you this amazing thing which compiles the results of all the work that's done for all the letters of the alphabet progressively as you go through the work, the exercises that the children are doing. They will be able to give you an overview of where they are with their precursive, with their capitals, with their lowercase or their cursive. And if you click on one child, you will be able to extract and see the line across of where they are for all of their letters. And you can click on any particular letter and see the first example and the last example of the work that they did in that category. So for A or B or C, okay? So that is the analytics that's on the left side of the top of the column there for the teachers. And that's it.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Nessa. I don't know if you can bring up one of your other screens again just to show where the help button is. So you can see there's a little question mark there near the top next to where it says My Account. So if you go into there, you'll be able to find videos and tutorials and so on. So if there's anything that you think, oh, I'd quite like to go back over and see how that works, or I'd like to look at class analytics in a wee bit more detail, then you can click on there and find some tutorials, etc. Okay, so that comes to the end of our session. I just want to explain a little bit about how the trial is going to work for this year. So we've got our Kaligo team already set up, which you've managed to access very nicely. So you can come onto the team whenever you want. You can ask questions. Myself or Nessa might answer questions, but I've also asked Laurie, Danielle and Sarah, who were at King Edward and Crudi, and they were doing the pilot for us last year, and their schools are actually continuing with Kaligo this year as well, because they felt that it made such a great impact on their classes. So they've been using it for a year already. I've added them to the team, so they'll be able to help answer any questions that you might have as well, which is really handy because they're using it every day. They know exactly how it works in and out, whereas I'm just sort of dipping in and out of it every so often. And if it would be useful, I can ask them if we can set up a Q&A session with them. And that might be something that we might want to do further down the line. So you can just let me know. Thank you to everyone who's already sent on details. I've set you up with an admin for the school. So your head teacher might have already told me who the admin will be. If not, I've just selected a person out of the list for each school. So you might have drawn the short straw for that. But don't worry, because I've set your classes up already and I've assigned teachers where I've known what teacher is teaching what stage. So you just need to go in and select the letters from your handwriting policy. With regards to pencils, some of your schools will have already received your pencils. Some of you are still waiting. I'm waiting on a delivery of boxes so that I can put your pencils in. But as soon as I get that, which should be this week, I will be delivering those. So if you've got anyone going to the Google training on Friday, I might hand them over to a person who's going to be there from your school. Likewise, if you've got a probationer in your school and they're attending training on Wednesday, next Wednesday, then I'll hand them over to the probationer. Otherwise, we'll be out to your school with the boxes directly. But you can still get started with it because, like Nessa said, you can use the finger, use your finger if you need to. Some pens and that maybe come with a bit at the end of it. You can use that, but only use the special ones. So you can try that out while you're waiting, because I know you'll be excited to get set up. I will put, like I've said in the chat already, I will set up a folder for your school in the files within the team. And there you're going to put those samples of writing that Nessa was talking about earlier. So just 5, remember, 5 from your class, so not your whole class. Take a wee photo. Doesn't have to have names or anything on it, as long as you can identify when you come to do your next set of photos who that child is and follow it along so we can see the progression, then that's great. And we'll get you to put samples in at key points in the year, Christmas, Easter, summer, so we can see the impact. And that's really handy for you as well, because we've only got funding for this year. When we get to the end of the year, it might be that your school, you want to keep going with it. And so you'll have a nice set of evidence to go to your head teacher and say, well, look at the impact this has had. Can we purchase it for the class again? Can we purchase it for the school? We'll set up a couple of dates for each term and you can choose one of those to come along to, and that'll just be a check-in date, so you can have a chat with Nessa and myself, see how you're getting on. Nessa will bring you up to date with any changes that have gone in Kaligo, any new features that have been added. So we'll let you know when those are going to be. And then at the end of the year, you'll be asked to fill out a questionnaire just on what you thought, asking about any impact that you saw. And I think Nessa had already said before that you don't need to spend hours and hours on Kaligo, 10, 15 minutes a day for your pupils. Don't worry if you can't manage it every single day. 3 times a week is what we would say would be good. So at least 3 times a week. If you can manage every day, brilliant. Pupils can get on with it themselves, as you've seen. So you could set it up as a station or a rotation within your class. The pupils don't all have to be doing it at the same time. And certainly if you've borrowed pencils from us, you won't have enough pencils to do it all at the same time. So that's everything from me. And I think that was everything from you as well, Nessa. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming along. We know how busy you'll have been. It's the second week back, so we really appreciate you taking the time to come along and spend the afternoon with us. So I can't stress that enough. We do really appreciate it. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we wish you the best of luck with Kaligo.
Yeah, best of luck. I hope you enjoy it.